Listen in on this segment of Trust and Real Estate Service Act OREA is just bringing on. You got to listen to this. If you're a realtor, even more so, it's worth listening to. Hey, everyone. We are here. What's happening in real estate this week? And there was an event that Conrad Zerini was in, Trust in Real Estate Service Act with OREA. I've got some mixed, emotions on this. Conrad's got some mixed emotions on this. Don't know why they want to change things. They want to do something so that they know that they're doing their job and they're trying to change things. I'm not a big fan what they got implementing here, Conrad. I'm not sure if you feel the same way. The one is that the self-representation. That's a mix-up. That's gonna what's going on? It's gonna be terrible. Okay, somebody's gonna come to us, say, hey, I don't want to use an agent. I want to write my own offer. Right now we gotta babysit people how to write offers, I guess.
Yeah, I think that people are making that. It's I think it's going to be a small segment of the population. But what it started with was this: the consumer didn't understand what is this customer and what is client. I think that's where it all started. So I think our licensing body, which is bringing this about, said, look, we want to have it something clearly defined. So we want to know, is it either an unrepresented party or are they represented? And I think because people didn't understand, well, what do you mean? I don't know. What is a client with a customer? When you look at client customer, it's the same fucking definition. Excuse the expression, right? So I can see that. I don't know if I like the wording about unrepresented, but I think people will kind of understand the fact that, look, at the end of the day, the cool thing about the market today and this I call it a defining moment in the market going forward, there's a lot of challenges. So I think people will understand that. I think it will solidify relationships between buyer reps and their buyer clients. And I think, it'll be a little blip for a little while until people kind of understand what's going on. But it's just clearly defined roles. And yeah, there might be the odd person that says, I want to do it myself. And then unfortunately, we're here to serve. So we're going to have to clean up some of the things they did. But I'll tell you, some sellers will probably say, I don't want to deal with an unrepresented person because I want to know that it's being ushered through with a proper realtor to help them on that side, because it's a complicated side on the buyer side just as much as it's a complicated side on the seller side. So you might see sellers saying, you know what, no unrepresented here. We want to make sure everybody's represented. So I want to make sure this thing closes and everything happens right.
And the seller has that right to do that. Then the seller still has the option to pick which offer they want to deal with, whether it's represented or not.
So question here, somebody calls, they want to see a house. Now they can't view this house without an agent. Am I correct, or can they? Can they actually?
Well, so this is where the subtlety is. This is kind of interesting and where a large brokerage like ours is a lot different, right? We already have. So if it's one of our listings, you can run out there because we already have a relationship. So you have to have a relationship established. So because it's listed under RE/MAX Escarpment, RE/MAX Niagara, there's a relationship established, so you can show it. Where it gets dicey is another agent, right? Like from another company that gets a online lead to see a property that's not their listing, they're going to have to get something signed in writing prior to showing the listing. So big brokerages like us, we can pay the dating game a little longer and get comfortable with the client, whereas the other smaller brokerages will have to get something signed by the buyer consumer. So they have to show that they're representing somebody.
So question, somebody calls me up, hey, I want to look at this house. It's our listing. We take them through, and a lot of times a buyer contract is or a representation contract is not signed sometimes till after you've taken through the one house they wanted to see. They just want to do a quick through. Yeah. Now, obviously you're sitting there, like you have to almost question them, say, hey, what's your plans on representation? You almost have to educate them. But let's say they say, hey, I showed you this property. They want to do now. I want to put my self-representation here in putting an offer in. How does that work? How does that work?
Because you got to be very careful with your dialogue if you don't have anything written. So then, but let's say, for instance, they say to you, like, I want to see some other properties. Well, then in order for you to go see something listed with, let's say, Royal LePage, you're going to have a relationship, a contract, or not a contract, but yeah, you're going to have a relationship, and decide whether they want to be unrepresented or represented.
Gotcha. Now, designated representation and multiple representation still okay.
Yep.
Am I right? Now,
Yes.
designated representation, that's kind of what's going on in Vancouver, right? In British Columbia, am I correct? Is that how they operate there? It has to be a designated representation. It could be the same brokerage, but two different realtors, one representing the buyer, one representing the seller. Now, so that's fine, I guess.
But they gave us an option. Like that was the clear fundamental thing that we lobbied for. We're not gonna. It's not like it is in British Columbia. So they gave us an option that as a brokerage, you can decide which one you want to do. Okay,
right.
So that's great news. Yeah.
So obviously, an individual agent's going to obviously say work as a multiple representation on that. I mean, because otherwise, if they're not going to want to send half their bit, like if they got a chance to work both ends. So gotcha there. So the other thing is open offers and closed out. Like there's a big mix up on that. And they were saying that you can take offers back, like if it's an open offer, like the buyer can say, well, no, I can take my offer back, even though he's given it irrevocable of another day. Like, is that so
you can start off closed. And it's really the seller's in the driver's seat for a lot of this. So the seller can decide, you know what, I want all offers closed. Okay. But during the process, when they see all the offers, they might say to their listing representative, you know what, I want them open. Okay. So what happens is that then the listing agent has to notify all the parties. Now, some buyers might not, they knew going into the transaction or into the bidding that it was closed. They might have something written in their agreement saying the minute it becomes open, we're out. Okay, we're out. So and that's something that the sellers got to understand, because let's say 50%, like let's say there's 10 offers, and then they say we want it open, and 50% of the offers, 5 back out. Well, then we got to notify everybody there's only 5 offers. So again, you don't have that emotion of 10 offers. So it's just kind of levels the playing field and yin and yang kind of thing. But yeah, it's going to be it's going to be fast paced, and I think people, now more than ever, are you going to need representation when it comes to these technicalities. Absolutely.
So does that open mean it's going to almost turn into like an auction-like process? Because if everybody's got...
Yes, good question. And the seller can decide what they want open. They could have just the price open. They could have just the closing date open. They could have just the terms open. They could have the price without the terms. So yeah.
You don't have to have it all open. It could be just one segment. We're going to...
Right. So meanwhile, the other people will think they're all cash offers. They don't know.
That's exactly.
You know what I mean? They don't know if there's conditions on there. So you just say, hey, we're just opening up the price and that's it, and the deposit, and that's it. But no, just the first page basically. So it's like,
how in the world is someone going to navigate that who's not a realtor? Okay. Well, I'm a mortgage broker thinking about this right here. Okay. But how, I think you'll have realtors that'll be, struggle to put this together first. But not only that, how is a normal everyday person going to go in and not understand how to compete in an open offer situation? This is getting very confusing in my mind. I
think they meddled with it. It's one of those things. I don't think there was an issue today. I think this kind of really muddies the waters and makes it more complex, right? I think, so I'm not sure why, but they're about the consumer. So
our Schedule Bs now are going to be 2 pages long.
Yeah.
So now, what else was brought up, Conrad, on this thing? Was there anything that I missed talking about?
No, I think you covered. I think those are the 2 main things. The other thing is that there's going to be, much stricter fines, much more governance on behalf of our licensing body in terms of audits, more stringent audits, and things like that, and stricter fines. And they're adding more and more people, compliance officers to look at when an agent does something unsavory and to a consumer. So that they're beefing that up as well.
Okay, so I don't know, maybe a year or two ago, didn't they change or add something to the Business Brokers Act that we thought it was going to change the industry, but nobody's even using it? Like,
well, this has been talked about.
Yeah. What was it? Was there
Well,
something?
it was the open. Yeah, it was the auction. What was the open bidding, right? Like that was talk, and they I'm going to tell you something. This Tressa thing, they've been adding things and adding things and adding things as time goes on. Before they're going to say when the date. It was supposed to be April 1st. Some people are talking about September. But there's a document now. This is very interesting that you say this. There's this document, this consumer Tressa document talking about what can happen to you as a consumer. And it's up to about 14 pages long right now. And the problem is that our licensing body, Real Estate Council of Ontario, decided to throw in things that weren't even being changed, but they felt we got to define this a little bit better. So there's an argument now saying, look, why don't we keep it simple? Like these things have been going on for the last, 30, 40 years, these other things, traditionally in the market. Now, don't start adding those in and confusing it. Let's just talk about what's coming in, September 1 and new. Let's not confuse the consumer. So there's a bit of a power struggle going on saying, there's a camp that says keep it simple, and then our licensing body is saying let's make it even more complicated. So yeah.
So how long is it Tim Hudak been the president of OREA now? How long has that been?
I think it's about 6-7 years. As a matter of fact, so REBA, the Real Estate Business and Brokers Act, which is getting replaced, of 2002. Hudak signed that originally when he was in at Queen's Park, because he was the minister. He signed the original one, and the joke is that the original one was so flawed because of Tim. Now Tim's got a chance to correct the mistakes he made in 2002. It took 20 years.
No
20
kidding.
Years to fix.
No kidding. So all I could say is like anything, like it is confusing. Can you imagine these agents, just new agents coming on board now? They got enough to learn, and they got to learn all this stuff. Like it's even so what about our working with the Realtor page? Is that going to be like 2 pages long now?
Well, no, pages? That's that whole document, that 13-page document. That's the one that you're going to have to send ahead of time. Now, the interesting thing is they don't even have to acknowledge it. We just have to, like they said, well, just send it. Well, so it's going to be like, when you sign your phone, that contract you sign when you sign up with Rogers, like nobody actually reads the thing, and it's how many pages long, right? Or every time you go on a website and that whole thing. I think, and that's why we're arguing, let's keep it simple. I think it's going to be so dull for people. No one's even going to bother. It's going to be like this noise in the background. Look, the thing is, it's going to be inherent upon us as professionals to kind of educate the consumer. Because I asked very clearly, is there any budget to educate consumers on this? And they all looked at each other and they said, no, it's going to be entirely in your hands. But don't make any changes to the documents. So yeah, it's interesting.
So. Okay, so we got that out of the way. This is actually a good segment for realtors anyway, because it gives it in layman's language. Now I understand it even better. Now, Brian, what's going on? Interest rates? Are we going to before we finish this thing off, or what's the deal out there? What's going on?
Well, you know what? Big thing on rates right now is everybody's talking about interest rates going down at the end of 2023 or 2024. And the number one term that people are taking right now is a 3-year fixed. The fixed rates are not going to be dropping by 2 or 3 percentage points. This is where everybody's got a little bit of a delusion right now. The variable rate is at 6.7. It's higher. That is probably going to go down by 1.5 or 2 points. But historically, variable rates are always lower than fixed. Right now, we're in an anomaly where variable are higher than fixed. So we're trying to educate people right now. It's like, yeah, like if you want to take a 3-year fixed term, go ahead. But like, I don't know if there's going to be much difference in the interest rate 2 to 3 years from now in that fixed. So if a 5-year makes sense for your goal, that's a great interest rate right now. If you're going to stay, it's a long-term plan. So I think it's just, asking the question, and we're teaching our team and agents to say, hey, listen, what rate do you think is going to go down? It's the variable. not the fix. So it's a little bit of education right now because everybody's talking about rates dropping and they're not going to go back down to 2%.
No,
really
never
not.
see that. Never see that.
Yeah. So that's what's happening right now. We've never seen more 3-year fixed terms right now. We're really trying to educate people to say, hey, listen, a 5-year is actually really good.
It's really good. Yeah.
So,
yeah.
You know, and the 5 years not going to go down to 2%.
No.
Like it's just not.
No.
Right? If it does, hallelujah. I'm happy to be wrong. But
everybody will be locking in for 10 years if they can.
Totally. So
anyway, everybody, thanks a lot, Conrad, Brian. Thanks for being here. Have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.